Hey there folks, welcome to this video. F1 today has announced that Qatar will be joining the calendar for 2021, race at Losail, and then for 2023 it will be joining on a 10-year deal at an undisclosed location, and I'm going to just talk about that for a few minutes. Not going to talk about it in a positive light though. You see, Qatar exists as a country where, well, human rights and are a question of what, not how. It's going to host the World Cup next year in winter of all things, because it has to. And yeah, it's using F1 as a shakedown run essentially. But the truth of it is that this contributes to a wider theme of sports washing, and let me name some countries for you that could be accused of sports washing, then I'll tell you the definition. So, Qatar, a recent example. You've also got Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain. There's not just the Middle East, you could find countries like China, for example. Potentially argue countries like Vietnam as well. If you want to get a bit close to home and look at Europe, you got Russia, you got Hungary, albeit a bit more historically. And sports washing is where you use sports and culture in some cases. I believe culture washing is also a term that's occasionally used to mask the fact that your regime does horrible things to people who don't deserve it. Such as oppressing women, members of the LGBT plus community, or ethnic minorities, or religious minorities. Now, what do these countries have in common? Oh, that's it, they all host F1 races. Or have recently. Of course, China hasn't for a couple of years. And Vietnam didn't get to because it got cancelled. And now been buried under corruption, so it would probably never happen. But you can look at all other regimes. Singapore could be a good example of it, for example. Malaysia. If you want to hit close to home, you can talk about Bolsonaro in Brazil. You can talk about the States. You can talk about the UK, where it's supposedly the home of motor racing. No country is free from it. Doesn't mean we can't openly criticise countries that are worse offenders, though. But at the end of the day, money talks in F1, doesn't it? It's what Vettel and Hamilton said. They were saying it around the time of the Belgian Grand Prix, but it applies here. F1 says we race as one, but we race as one until a better paycheck comes along. Because F1's a business. It makes a lot of money, and the way it's run is to make more money. And if they could say that something like this here that I wore at the British Grand Prix when I was working in the paddock, made from sustainable materials, that means they're doing something towards their We Race as One. Costs next to nothing. It says that they're doing their message, wins over a few fans, and then they can take the money from the likes of Qatar, Turkey, or any other regime they wish. Host races there. And the fans, well, they'd like old Nürburgring, they'd like, Hockenheim. They'd probably prefer the old Valencia street circuit, which at one point produced literally no overtaking to races in countries like these. But I have to conclude in a similar way to how I did when Saudi Arabia was announced to be joining the calendar for 2021. Which is that people find the Middle East to be an easy target to pick up. Now, you notice I went a bit close to home when I talked about Hungary, I talked about Russia. I also said no country is free from this. Everybody should be striving to be better and do better. And I know there's a lot of the reason why so many people criticise Qatar, why so many people criticise Saudi, and why these are the big ones for criticisms, is because of the fact that they are Muslim states. And I find that abhorrent. I abhor racism. But I also would have to criticise these regimes for when they commit atrocities. And it's possible to do all of that. I don't agree with the racists that are denouncing racing in Muslim countries. Because those people are horrible. But what I do denounce is racing in countries which have little or no regard for human rights. The likes of Saudi Arabia, the likes of Qatar, the likes of Turkey, the likes of Hungary, the likes of Russia, the likes of Brazil. Even if it's like a mainstay in F1 calendar or whatever, doesn't mean it has the right as a state to do what it does to its citizens. And there's nothing more for me to say. I can't stop it. We can't stop it. It's going to happen. The drivers have to race. They're contractually obliged to. So, I guess all I can really say is, well, this. And I'm sorry.